Hello, everyone. I am Rhonda Walker, and I am honored to host the next hour of our i.Detroit Human Atlas in American City book launch. And when I say book launch, I am talking about something that is an incredible work of art, that is an atlas, a documentation of individuals throughout the city of Detroit. 100 different people are included in this beautiful book, and it's more than a coffee table book. It is literally an atlas into the lives of Detroiters from all different diverse backgrounds and ages and genealogy. And we're going to learn all about that over the next hour. So I am excited to be your host. As I said, my name is Rhonda Walker. I'm a news anchor here in the city of Detroit, but I know that we probably have an audience virtually that is all across the city of Detroit, the Metro Detroit area, the state, and even the country and the world. So it is an honor to be here with you today, and something that is very dear to those of us that call ourselves Detroiters. Today, we have an exciting show for you planned. The i.Detroit Human Atlas founder, who started on this project 3 years ago, is from England, and he is British, but he saw something special about our city and poured his heart into this project for the last 3 years. His name is Marcus Lyon, and we are going to be hearing from him shortly. Also, the executive producer of the i.Detroit project, Mark Davidoff. He's going to be joining me as well. Shirley Stancato, she is the principal SRS Advisory Services. She will be a part of our panel discussion shortly. Ken Coleman, who is an author and journalist here in Detroit and just like a human historian. That is one of my go-to people as a journalist whenever I want to know all things about the history of our beautiful city. Kenyatta D. She is an author and a TV host. She'll be joining us from California. She also worked on the DNA portion of this project, and she's going to give us a little bit more insight about what that all means and why it's so important when creating this historic map of individuals from right here in our city. And also Ozzie Rivera, he's a cultural arts organizer and educator, and he is going to be joining us as well. So I want to tell you a little bit more. i.Detroit is a research-based exploration of 100 exceptional individuals that were nominated over a 6-month period throughout the city of Detroit to help represent the fabric of who this city is. And this project certainly has been a labor of love, and it's going to be exciting for you to meet some of the faces and the pages of this beautiful book. But I do want to join me now here in our special studio in Detroit, Mark Davidoff. He is the CEO of the Fisher Group and also the executive producer of i.Detroit. And he can help us understand the significance of this project. So Mark, it's so good to see you.
Good morning, Rhonda.
You have been a part of this since it was just an idea. You know Marcus Lyon, and you had the opportunity to meet him rather organically, not about the Human Atlas, but just organically. You meet him at an event in England. Tell me what happens next.
So I was on Leader's Quest in Bradford, England in 2017, and Marcus was on the same quest. And one night over a pint or two, he began to explain to me the Human Atlas project he had done in Brazil and the opportunity to take photographic essays, oral histories, and DNA to tell the story of people, place, and purpose. And he said he wanted to do it in Detroit. And I thought at that moment that this was an opportunity because, as you and I both know, oftentimes other people tell our stories from here.
And we don't always like what they have
and
to
it's
say.
It's better to control with our own voices and our own people. And so I came home and Marcus sent me the Brazil book, and it was fascinating. I didn't know really what to do with it, so I went to see Rip Rapson, the CEO of the Kresge Foundation. I walked into his office, put the book on his desk. I sat down. He never sat down. He stood and went through the book as I described it. And in 15 minutes, he said to me, I'm funding this entire project.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of what brings us to this moment today, which we're all so proud of, which is the i.Detroit project and our ability to really tell our story.
And if you are wondering, as you're watching right now, what is this? What is this all about? We're going to show you exactly what we're talking about. But this is the brainchild of an incredible artist in England. Tell me about Marcus Lyon. This is a man that you met 3 years ago that is now a very dear friend of yours.
Marcus is a deep soul. He came to the city as an outsider, but he's now one of us. And of all the stories, I think the most impactful story is that after the last photo portrait was taken, Marcus was in his loft in Eastern Market, and he called me, and he said, I have in my possession the 100 DNA samples of our i.Detroiters, and I was going to overnight them to Houston, to the lab, but I can't let go of them. I have to take them personally. And he got on a plane to hand carry these samples because he felt a personal connection with every single person that he touched during this project. And that's Marcus Lyon.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Yes. And also these profiles of each individual on these pages that make up just this, what Detroit is. It isn't just them talking about their lives and their upbringing and where they're from, but it's a literal genealogy of their DNA, their life, their heritage, where they come from.
Yeah, it is the story of how people arrived here and why they chose to stay. It's an incredible project, and it's just the beginning of how we now leverage this forward to teach about Detroit to ourselves and to people around the world.
Absolutely. Well, it is certainly a great lesson. You mentioned Kresge Foundation, which came in really big to help fund this project. Over 3 years, it certainly is an expensive investment into telling the story of Detroit. We want to hear from Wendy Jackson-Lewis. She is the managing director at Kresge Foundation for more on why they wanted to get involved.
Thank you, Rhonda. This is an exciting day, at least 3 years in the making. I know we all imagined this process would culminate with an event open to the public, to gather in one place with the same kind of community cross-section we see in the i.Detroit book. But I'm thankful to be here today to join in the launch of this book and invite not just the Detroit community, but the world to join us online. Detroit is a tapestry of stories. It's the hometown of the Kresge Foundation, founded by Detroiter Sebastian Kresge in 1924, and his legacy, his story, leads to this gathering today. Detroit is the city that I've called home for more than 20 years, a destination in my own family story, recorded here in this family Bible since 1864. A story that stretches from Newberry, South Carolina, to Pope and Yazoo City, Mississippi, to Eufaula, Alabama, to New Providence, Louisiana. And now, 100 Detroiters are sharing stories, the likes of which have never really been shared in our community. Through a community nominating process, through the work of Marcus Lyon and his collaborators, especially here in Detroit, through photography, through DNA science, through anthropology, and through book, web, and audio design. Through this choreography of partnerships, 100 Detroiters invite us to look at them, to contemplate their personal narratives as windows into the complexities that join us all together. More than ever before, seemingly even more so than when we embarked on this journey, grappling with the grand narrative of our past, with all of its connections, complications, and even contradictions, is essential for us as a city, as a state, as a nation to move forward. I hope you are as excited as I am, as we at the Kresge Foundation are. We're excited about what comes next in this program, and we're excited to see how this work can contribute to the drive for a just, equitable, and inclusive Detroit, today and in the days to come.
Big thank you to Wendy and also to the Kresge Foundation for being a part of this incredible project and this incredible piece of history that we will now have forever. It's a pretty special day. And we've heard a lot about Marcus Lyon, the founder of Human Atlas, and now it's time to meet him virtually all the way from England. Hello, Marcus.
Hi, Rhonda. Thank you so much for hosting us.
Oh,
today.
It is so good to see you.
So tell me, what's the next thing on our agenda?
Well, the next thing on our agenda is all about you, this culmination of 3 years, the launch of the i.Detroit Human Atlas. And I guess what I want to know from you is there's got to be some butterflies. This is a huge project and a huge gift to Detroit. How can you describe your emotion right now?
Well, I'm full of joy. I mean, it's really fabulous to be with everyone. I know there are many people checking us out from right across the world. So welcome to the i.Detroit launch. I think for me, when I was a boy, I always looked up to the sports stars that were long distance runners. And this feels like the end of a marathon. We've gone on this enormously long journey to research and get involved with all your compadres in Detroit. And we're just really honored to be at that stage where we're on the finishing line. So it's just fabulous to be with you.
Well, you are born and raised in rural England. And so the natural question is, why Detroit? Talk about your vision for this project and why you chose us.
Well, I suppose actually as a village boy, one of the most significant things we found when we came to the city is that Detroit really is the smallest large city I've ever been to. And when you get under the skin of the city, you get this sense of community. People welcome you in a really positive and meaningful way. And I think the purpose of the work really is to inspire that next generation to look at leadership in your own communities, in your own neighborhoods, and realize that there are real leaders and community activists who are right there, right next door to you. And for that young group of people to see their future, not to be in the shadow of those leaders, but really to lead their lives in honor of them and to continue the work.
So let's talk about what the book actually looks like, because it's not just a book with pages. These pages kind of have the new technology and the app component that brings them to life. So describe to folks why you did it that way and how to explore it.
The format we use is to bring the visual, spoken, and genetic identity information of this nominated group of people together to tell this deeper story about how we self-author and how we co-author a more hopeful future. So within the book, you've got your traditional portraits, which is what I've been doing as a photographic artist for the last 35 years. But then we've developed an app, which when you scan the device across the portrait, that activates a soundscape and the portrait begins to talk back to you. So what you have is, as the audience, is a relationship with that person, and you begin to get a deeper sense of who they are. So rather than the portrait being the chattel of the viewer, you've suddenly got this opportunity to create a dynamic connection between people. Then on top of that, if you think of that as an X and a Y axis, we've sort of got what you would say in America, a Z axis, a Z axis, as we would say this side of the Atlantic. And that's the ancestral DNA. And Kenyatta will give us some insight into that later. But the DNA allows us to see a history, a depth in people, a journey to a place. And alongside that, we've mapped a huge number of other individual factors about the people, their vocation, their love of music, and all sorts of other things that we'll talk about a little bit in the video we'll run in a couple of minutes.
Well, you know what? All that you've said, I feel like the folks that are watching right now are like, I need to see this. I need to see what it's all about. So I think it's a good segue to see this beautiful video that really brings the i.Detroit Human Atlas to life. Take a look.
My name is Chanel Adams. I'm a college student.
My name is Shannon Smith.
I'm Shafwan Ahmed.
My name is Aisha Ghazi.
I'm Aaron
James Fegan.
My name is Chris Lambert.
My name is Noah Stevens.
My name is Passion Murray.
My name is Rashida Tlaib.
My name is Amber Reggie.
My name is Matthew Naimi.
I'm Martin Manna.
My name is Lauren Hood.
I'm Jessica Carey.
I am Dr. Truman Hudson Jr.
Hello, my name is Charles
My name is Denise.
My name is Omar Hernandez.
I'm Cheryl P. Johnson.
I am Maria Salinas.
My name is Carlos
My name is Lisa Johan.
My name is John George.
My name is Anthony.
I'm Michael Brzee.
Hi, I'm Amy Good.
I'm Dan Carmody.
So I'm Gary Wozniak.
My name is Virgil Taylor.
My name is Satori Shakur.
My name is Larry Gabriel.
My name is Carmen Anamdi.
I'm Phyllis Judkins.
I'm George Anamdi.
My name is Penny Baylor.
I'm Shirley Birch, and I am a citizen.
The purpose of the Human Atlas is to give a broader understanding of a group of people who are really trying to change the world.
I am Ariel Johnson, and I've experienced homelessness. We've lived in hotels. We've had days when we didn't have water, we did not have lights. And the fact that I was able to grow and become successful of where I am, not because I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, but because my community took responsibility for me and my success.
I think as the Human Atlas projects are built, we've done Brazil, a small project for the Smithsonian in Israel, We Deutschland in Germany, and now the i.Detroit project, which is finishing now, and we're just beginning the pre-production on Decoded Human Atlas of Silicon Valley. As this set of atlases grows, I realise how this process is the gift that keeps giving. Every time we talk about this project, every time we introduce this set of ideas about studying amazing people in specific geographies through sound, images, and genetic codes, we connect. We get this sense of possibility that we can help author a more positive and hopeful future. And I feel incredibly grateful to the supporters who've given me the possibility to make this my life's work. The legacy that I leave behind will be the Human Atlas Project. The very foundation of a human atlas is the nomination process. We rely on reaching out deep into the communities that make up our societies, that make up the places we're studying and researching. And those people, the community elders, young grassroots leaders, they all are asked to nominate individuals who are making the difference in their communities. By doing that, we begin the process in the way we want to continue it, which is that we go without prejudice, without fixed ideas, and we can listen to and really harvest the very best of the societies that we visit. The biggest learnings that have come from the process of building the human atlases over the last 10 years is a much deeper sense of the power of listening. For me, these are listening projects. They're both listening projects for us as the production team, as the people who are making these projects. But in a sense, when they are finished, they become books that you listen to through the image-activated sound app. They're projects you listen to by looking at the DNA maps and understanding where people are from and their origins. This is a deeply powerful process to stop, to put your prejudices to bed, to leave your preconceptions, and to come to a space with your ears and your heart wide open.
My name's Dewan Dandridge. I'm a proud, lifelong Detroiter, a father of 3, husband of 1 beautiful wife. George Washington's wife's father. So George Washington's father-in-law, his name was Dandridge. They owned my family. So, when you ask me to be a proud American, my story's a little bit different.
The Human Atlas process is as we begin to study and listen, we begin to understand more, which means we can bring more to the final piece. With the i.Detroit project, we've done multiple extra elements to the project. There's the inheritance tracks where everybody's nominated a song they wanted to hand to the next generation. There was commissioning vinyl 45 7-inch, which will be in the back of every book. So we built these extra little details into the process. But perhaps most significantly, there's the fabulous, powerful relationship we have with the design team of Jim Sutherland of Studio Sutherland and Rosie Trickett. The two of them have brought multiple new ideas to bear on the project and built and created new opportunities for us to tell the story of these remarkable 100 people in a deeper and more powerful way.
One of the things I really like doing is walking around cities. So I walked around the streets quite a lot on my own, for miles and miles, trying to discover places. Looking at the maps and the grids and things like that, which feature quite heavily in the book. And then we had a few drive rounds through some of the neighbourhoods to have another look round at some of the stuff that wasn't just sort of downtown, and just trying to get a feel for the place, I suppose. So with Detroit, there were some interesting discussions about, we'd had this thought about mapping, but that led to the discussions about intersections and people choosing their favourite places in Detroit. And in the same way that the link to music led to this thought about people having their inheritance tracks. I think one of the other key parts of the project is the DNA mapping. We get sent a sort of spreadsheet that looks a bit like this, and we're trying to work out a way of bringing this to life. We like this idea of almost geological layers a bit like a core sample really, that cover all the different DNA from around the world. And so we designed a pattern for every single one that you can vary, which means each one has a unique feel, but is obviously part of that system. And I can't really wait to do the next one. I want to start, because it's such a brilliant thing. It's exactly the reason I wanted to be a designer, was to work on projects like this.
Tiny bit of your belt there.
I've never seen a camera that.
My name's Kirk Mays. I'm a father, a son, a husband, and a man of my community. And the challenges that are indicative of the communities that, are in Detroit, that I'm a part of, I don't feel like running from that. I feel like running towards that and saying, what can I do? Because I'm a man of this community. I'm a man of this culture. And if I don't do something about it, who else will? And honestly, who else's responsibility is it?
And one of the great joys of this particular project has been working with Fenton and his team at Boss Print. The final book is the most extraordinary feat of beautiful quality art printing. The silver inks, the paper finishes, the binding, the foiling on the front and the back cover. With Fenton and his team, what you're doing is you're working with craftspeople. They genuinely love getting the details right, the finish perfect. So this really is a testament to the care and the attention he and Neil, the printer, have taken over the last 2 months to create a beautiful piece of printed art. I think when I first came to Detroit, like so many, I had a very romantic view of the city, Motown, the music, definitely part of my upbringing. After spending time there, I realised that it was much more nuanced. There were many more complicated and perhaps interesting stories going on about resilience, about community support, about people coming up with innovative ideas to solve the problems of our time. But what was so wonderful was to spend all this time around the 100 who were the people who were doing that hard work.
Hello, I'm Reverend Larry Simmons. I pastor Baber Memorial African Methodist Episcopal Church. I came to understand that the oppressor is oppressed or imprisoned in much the same way that the oppressed is. Their physical position may be more privileged, but they are as much locked in to a worldview which is wrong as they impose on those who are oppressed.
That's great, good position. And then let's finish up with a couple just on you. There's so many people to thank, hence the list of, I think, 250 people credited in the back of the book. There's an enduring debt that I owe Rip Rapson and Wendy at the Kresge Foundation, Charles and his team at the Charles H. Wright Museum, and then a wider group of supporters. They're the ones that are constantly watering the seed that we plant. But perhaps most significantly, it's the lifelong friendship with Mark Davidoff and his wife Margie for really allowing us to access their city and to give us the unequivocal support that really has made the whole project possible.
My name is Alice Thompson, and I am a community organizer. I think it comes from coming from a very close-knit town in Louisiana. We work in a community, and so the community binds us together, and no one works as an individual.
Through the COVID-19 crisis, I've connected by voice with many people, sometimes with lovely video calls too, and the sense of connection was just remarkable. Let's see, here we go. There you are.
Oh, delicious.
Did you?
No.
All right.
No.
So you're 1% from Congo North. You're 4% from Congo South. I mean, it really is. It's an amazing honor to be the person who gets to tell these stories. But inside my heart, I've built 100 remarkable, lifelong, resilient friendships, and that's a really incredible thing to be able to say.
Just remarkable. I am going to bring Marcus back so we can talk a little bit more, but you watch that video and you see the work that went into putting this all together. Such an amazing project. I was curious, you know, did you encounter any challenges along the way, getting people to open up, getting people to share their DNA? I mean, this is you know, very personal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is something we think a huge amount at the beginning about. And I think the reality is that we frame this to people as a collaboration. So right from the first moment that Camilla rings up, our producer rings up the nominee, we talk to them about how we're going to build something together. And I think when you're asking people to give their DNA, to share these very deep stories about their lives, you really have to do it that way. I mean, this isn't a taking process in any sense at all. And we try to find intentionally thoughtful, empathetic ways to tell stories. So one of the things we did in the city this time is we chose to ask the majority of people to nominate a place in Detroit where we would make the interview, the actual recorded sound. And so people chose, you know, the bench where they first kissed their wife, the steps of the library where they first got a book that inspired them to be a lifelong reader and professor, you know, the porch of their grandmother where effectively they'd grown up. So when we did the interview part, which in many ways is the big listening bit here, especially for the audience, people were in a sense honored by where they were being recorded, where they were being listened to. And I think that helped us perhaps break down some barriers than, you know, being in some sort of sterile studio space or doing the interview straight after the photography. We did the photography in the DNA collection, and then we went out and we found these other places to interview people. So I think that made a big difference.
I bet it did. And it sounds like you had a chance to explore our great city. I'm born in Detroit, so I'm like the Detroiters that you talk to. We have so much pride and love for our city. And anybody that's watching right now, it's the same way. It's just such a tremendous gift that you've given us. When you explored the city with all of the i.Detroiters, were there any places, experiences, you know, what are you left with in terms of what you love about Detroit?
Well, I think that, you know, so many people don't realize that Detroit is 139 square miles. It's an absolutely massive city. And of course, during the last, 25, 50 years, it's seen a massive reduction in density. So there are areas that are really not that full anymore. But when you travel around the city, I think it's the people. It's that grittiness, it's that side hustle, it's that warm Southern welcome. You know, you've got this huge number of people who've come through a family line of this enormous migration of over 6 million people who moved out of the South and came up to find their part of the American dream in cities like Detroit. And I think it's that welcome and that sense of friendship that comes once you've earned your spurs. And I think that's what we took away from it, was this sense of friendship and this deep sense of community.
Well, you certainly get us. It absolutely, when anybody asks me, why do you still live in Detroit? You know, I was born here. I've never lived anywhere else. I've been in Michigan my whole life. And I always say it's the people. We're a special group of people here. You're not from here, though. So do you think it was easier or harder to be able to tell our story in this way, not being from Detroit?
I think initially it was going to be more difficult because I had to get something over the line with the 50 community leaders I met very early on. And in a sense, that was the kind of make or break moment when Mark and Wendy and I went and spent 2 hours being grilled, really, about what was this project? Why should you, a white man from London, be the portal for our stories? And, you know, what are your intentions? And I think it was after that when people realized just how much we cared about the content and getting the story right, that in a sense I got welcomed in and I went from being an other to being a brother. Yes. And I think that made a very big difference. You know, I'd love to think that perhaps there is an opportunity for this type of storytelling in Detroit to continue past me, and that maybe the i.Detroit project will be taken on by other artists within the city, and they can tell deeper stories way into the future using similar processes. So I hope it's transferable as a project.
Well, we have a lot of creatives here in the city of Detroit as well, as I know that you have met many of them. So you're opening the door certainly for other folks to do this. We did poll some of the people that are watching right now for questions, and I did want to share one with you. It said, did you discover something about Detroit that you didn't know before embarking on this project?
Well, I discovered a lot, and obviously that deeper nuance about resilience and community is the powerful one. But the one that always makes us laugh is at the beginning of every interview, Joe, who works with me doing the sound and the photography, he used to get the sound levels right by asking everybody, what did you have for breakfast? And we found out that Detroiters don't have breakfast. So my big takeaway is you guys need to eat breakfast more often.
Very, very good. So I do want to take a moment to acknowledge our beautiful cultural gem here, the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, because they are a part of this project as well as a sponsor.
Good morning. My name is Neil Barclay, and I'm the president and CEO of the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, located in the world-class city of Detroit, Michigan. A true melting pot of diversity and innovation, Detroit, since its founding in 1701, has been an integral part of our nation. It has earned the name Motor City as a result of leadership, hard work, and groundbreaking advancements in the automobile industry. Its key role in World War II won the title the Arsenal of Democracy. And known throughout the world, Detroit is also the birthplace of many types of music, from Motown and techno to the Detroit sound in gospel and jazz. The Wright is truly honored to serve as a partner in this fascinating and inspiring exploration of 100 people who are driving change in the city. The i.Detroit project will create a deeper understanding of the individuals and communities that make Detroit so special. The goal of this project mirrors our mission of opening minds and changing lives through the exploration and celebration of African American history and culture. I hope everyone who experiences this human atlas of the city of Detroit will be inspired to visit the Wright Museum along with Detroit's other great cultural institutions. It is a city like no other, and I encourage you to learn more about the many diverse people that together create this extraordinary place.
Oh, and many thanks to the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History for being a part of i.Detroit. We have a panel discussion coming your way. You're going to meet some of the people that were a part of helping to find the 100 i.Detroiters that make up the Human Atlas. So I want to introduce them to you. A key player is Shirley Stancato, and she is joining us virtually. Hello, Shirley.
Hello. How are you? Good morning.
We are so thrilled that you were a part of this. Shirley is a seasoned executive, a prominent civic leader, expert on race relations, social justice advocate for almost 20 years, of course. We remember you as the president and chief executive officer of New Detroit Incorporated. So we are so great to have you here. I'm going to ask you a few questions, but I want to introduce the rest of the panel.
Good to see you.
Next up, we have Kenyatta D. She is an author of the Family Tree Toolkit, a contributor to the groundbreaking 1619 Project, published by the New York Times. She was the 2019 honorary chair for Preservation Week and was named a newsmaker in American Libraries Magazine, a publication of the American Library Association. Kenyatta is an author, an attorney, a lecturer, a professional genealogist, and a television personality. It is so nice to see you virtually from California.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
We look forward to talking with you more about DNA and genealogy. It's just such an exciting topic. And so we look forward to getting more insight from you. And here on my panel with me, socially distant, of course, I do want to show you who else we have in store for you. Starting off to my far left is Ozzie Rivera, born in Puerto Rico. How'd I do?
Yes, you did very well.
He's lived most of his life, though, in Southwest Detroit, so you didn't have to come far to see us today. For over 5 decades, he's been active in community advocacy and human services, serving as the Director of Community Engagement at Southwest Detroit, as Mental Health Director for Access, as the Executive Director of Latino Family Services, and as Dean of Students at Wayne County Community College. So, Ozzie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to talking with you more. And once you see the 100 pages of iDetroit, you're going to find Ozzie's page, which will be very exciting to learn more about you. And last but certainly not least, our historian here in Detroit. Whenever I have a question about Detroit, whenever I want to interview somebody that knows everything about everything that's ever happened in our city, I always come to Ken Coleman. He is an author, a journalist. He covers Southwest Detroit, economic justice, civil rights for Michigan Advance. You are a former Michigan Chronicle senior editor and served as the American Black Journal segment host of Detroit Public TV. Your work has been cited by the Detroit News, the Detroit Free Press, History Channel, CNN, and on WDIV Local 4 whenever I need an expert Detroiter to give us some history lessons. But you were also an essayist for the award-winning book Detroit, 1967, which is something that everybody should have at home, along with the i.Detroit Human Atlas, Origins, Impacts, Legacy, and you are also an Historical Society of Michigan Trustees. So Ken, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. You're too kind.
I'm so excited to have you all. So to get things started, I guess I'd like to start with you, Shirley. You supported this project. You were kind of one of the first people to get on board to work with Marcus to help find these 100 Detroiters. So talk about your initial introduction to the project and then that process over 6 months to find our i.Detroiters.
Okay, so I was one of the 50 people at the breakfast that Marcus talks about when he was being grilled. And I was really fascinated by a human atlas, sort of what is that? And so spoke with him at the breakfast, and then met with him really early on. We sat at the Charles Wright Museum going through the nominations over the course of I don't know how many days and months, and just making sure that we were able to be authentic and that we really had a cross section of Detroit. I'm a native Detroiter, born and raised, still here, and it's really important because I think someone said earlier, really, others have told our story, and this was an opportunity for us to tell our story. And so I really viewed my role really not as sort of dictating themes and what the kinds of themes were that should happen, but really to focus on the authentic part of it and to make sure, help to facilitate Marcus's ability to tell the truth about what he found. And I think all of us can agree that he did. He told the truth, and then even more. Authenticity, 1,000%, and even more than that. So just happy to be a part of the process early on. And then also, when I heard about the fact this is an atlas, a human atlas, what does that mean? And so I focus on the fact that an atlas is a map, and that's a place, and it's a where and a what, but the human part of it is the who. And so I viewed my role really as using the map really as a guide to the people of this community, and to make sure that there was a cross section of folks. So no things, but just focusing very much on making sure it's authentic. What are the processes that Marcus and his team would be able to use to make sure that authenticity stuck? Because I think everybody knows, as Detroiters, we are pretty authentic and pretty real. So I'm really excited about the outcome of the project and the book.
Well, it means a lot to have your endorsement of it, and also your hard work and energy and thought process that you and the others went through in order to develop these 100 Detroiters that, as you said, it's such a diverse mix of people and perspectives that you're getting. And that's what makes Detroit so incredible. We are so diverse. There are people from all walks of life and from all over the world here in our city, and it's what makes us so unique.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
Well, I do want to bring Ken in because we talk about the history of Detroit, and you look at, you're a researcher, you look at the time, the research, the interviewing process, the mapping out of these lives. How does this fit into Detroit's history?
Well, I think it fits in very well. I like the approach. You use the word describing Detroit, i.Detroit, as remarkable. Marcus Lyon called the city's people resilient. I use another R word. It's refreshing. I've been fortunate enough, others have been fortunate enough to be part of processes where a research team comes to town. They'll say, I'm going to be in town for 3 days. I'd like to talk to you and five other people you think would be helpful. Well, Marcus Lyon did something very different than that. He did the inverse of that. He invested in the city, spending time in the city, having a process that was organic. Having a committee of 50 people and then a nominating process. That takes time. You don't do that in 3 days.
No.
And that's what's, that's what's refreshing about this project. Add the DNA, the beautiful photos. It is already on our coffee table, and it's the winner, even with my 12-year-old.
Wow, engaging to all ages. And I think also the technology aspect of it.
Indeed.
I mean, it is more than just a book. It really comes to life in this 2020 area of digital.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned the DNA, and I think that's a good segue to talk to Kenyatta about, as a genealogist, just this way of mapping out our lives and to be able to see where we came from. Talk about and just help us to, understand more. I mean, this is more than just DNA. It's understanding ourselves and where we come from.
Yeah, so DNA is one piece of the puzzle. And, my family is from Detroit. I'm a native Detroiter, although I live in Santa Monica. My grandmother, who I profiled in my essay, her family's from upstate New York. Her mom and her paternal ancestors, her father, are from Georgia. So they're part of that great migration. So when I looked at this book and the final project of i.Detroit and the DNA mapping, it really starts to tell the story, but it's just the first step. The next step is really understanding, as African Americans, how this ties into our genealogy as it relates to the domestic slave trade and slavery, right? Because a lot of the migrations out of the South were for better opportunities. And this DNA helps us understand whether we're Irish or we're English or we're Scandinavian, right? And ties our connection back to Africa. And so I hope from this project that a lot of the participants will continue their journey to understand who they are, because I've understood my genealogy and my DNA and my connection to Detroit from my family, from those stories, and from my own DNA journey.
So what would you suggest for all of us to do as it relates to that? How should we
I would
find
suggest
out?
taking this as a start to interview family members that are still around, right? So use these stories, use this DNA to kind of talk to them about what have you learned about migration? What oral history have you learned about our family members? And then document that, the way in which we continue the storytelling, right, that Marcus talked about earlier. And take it to the next level of starting to do the genealogy research and create your own family history book. I did that for my grandmother. Unfortunately, she's profiled in the book, but she passed away in April. She would have been 89 tomorrow, but I'm so happy to have her history be a part of this project and to be able to tell her family story. And I think it's important for everyone to do that. So connect with your family members, interview them, and then begin that journey on genealogy.
Wow. Well, our condolences on losing your grandmother, but certainly it's wonderful that she's going to live on in this book. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to bring in Ozzie next to talk a little bit more about the deeper message here as a cultural producer, as someone that was born in Puerto Rico, but now living here in Southwest Detroit with our deep culture. How does this expand beyond the borders of, say, Detroit?
Well, it's real interesting because one of the powerful things about reading the book is listening to it, in the sense that you could use your app and to scan the photos. And I'm halfway through the book, so each day I take maybe 2 or 3 people because I want to savor it. And one of the key themes that comes out is this sense of energy and creativity across the board, across generations. So I look at the year that the current person I'm looking at was born, and I'm hit by those folks who were born in the 70s. And the creative energy and the spirit that they show. And, that's reflective of the cultural impact Detroit has had on the world. these are the building blocks that created the jazz we listen to in the world, the techno, the Motown, the Latin music that even though it's not recognized, still comes from Detroit and has made an impact nationally, internationally. And it happens in the individual level, in the family level, and that comes through in the book.
I love everything that you just said. I mean, we have so much pride here in Detroit, but it's like, do other people know? Do they realize what all started here? Sometimes we're known for music, we're known for cars, but it almost seems like it's not enough to truly talk about the depth. You have a page in this book. To be selected, to be a part of these 100 profiles. Talk about what that means to you.
First, it was an honor to be chosen. And then to see the company that I am part of. And I mean, that just elevates the sense of honor that I get. But then I see that my story is the same in different ways than the stories of each that I've had the good fortune up to date to listen to. And I'm savoring it like a good glass of wine. I'm not trying to rush through it.
Yes.
And it's really the personal stories, the motivations that come through, and I can connect to that. Mm-hmm. And I say, okay, I'm part of something big. Right. And so even though I'm one of the seniors in the book, I see that tradition and that spirit being carried on by those that are in their 20s and 30s that are featured in this book. And I'm very happy because I'm saying it's not dying. In fact, it's just ready to explode again.
And you do get a sense of that inspiration and togetherness and connection to people from all walks of life, people you've never met. I know, Ken, probably when you look through the pages, you see a lot of familiar faces, and then people that you've never seen before. Just as you're leafing through and seeing the diversity of the people selected, you know, what kind of stands out to you? What are some things that, you know, you remember that really stuck with you?
Well, what's immediately striking, Rhonda, is when you go through the pages and you look at the 100 people like Ozzie, who were selected to be in the book, you realize Detroit is more than just a black and white city. We've tended to look at Detroit that way. People who come to Detroit tend to look at Detroit that way. One of the things that I tried to do in the essay that I wrote for i.Detroit is talk about the city's history over several centuries. Lots of people don't know, even people who have been here like me for 52 years, lots of people don't know that slavery did exist in this part of the country and did exist in Detroit. And there were people who looked like me who were actually either running away from the South in slavery or were brought here or were really slaves to the French who had been the early settlers here, at least the early European settlers here. So I write, for example, in 1837, whites and blacks come together to create what's called the Detroit Anti-Slavery Society, to speak out, obviously, against the slave trade, to be a harbor for slaves who are coming from other parts of the country. And as we know, and as we've learned through school, the Underground Railroad had a major stop here, really the last stop here, before untold number of people were free in Canada. One of the things I think that i.Detroit does a great job of is not only sharing the stories of Ozzie and the other 99 people and their time here through oral history, but the genealogy too. But it's important to go back a couple centuries and understand where Detroit's place was in the world and who were the people who were here in 1763, for example.
Well, thank you for having that contribution here as well. I think we should bring in Marcus just to kind of piggyback on what Ken was saying, because I know your hope is this wonderful book will be something that's in households all over Detroit, but hopefully it can be a teaching tool in schools and something that can go beyond that as this kind of gift to Detroit and our Detroit children. Can you talk a little bit more about your vision for that?
Yes, indeed. Well, obviously now's not an easy time to gather people together. So we have an aspiration to work with Kresge to create an exhibition that we'll bring back to the city. There's talk of doing projections or a big museum show, but also we're very keen, Mark and I, to work with community educators to bring a piece of curriculum together to take to the Detroit public schools to inspire that next generation. And we feel that there's an opportunity for the kids in the schools to do little i.Detroit projects where they go and find leaders in their community or people who are their heroes or sheroes and actually interview them, take some photography, maybe even collaborate with our DNA partners, Family Tree DNA, to do some DNA tests and really build something quite resilient that, again, like I mentioned earlier, that builds past what is ostensibly a coffee table book. And I mean, we're deeply proud of the book, as we said in the video. It's a beautiful piece of art printing. But actually, I feel that the content and the stories are deeper and more powerful than just leaving this on a coffee table to get dusty in the future. That there's a way of thinking here about community, about connection, about how we study, about how we respect, how we reach out to people and build relationships. And I think more than ever right now, in a world that's increasingly shouty and diversive and people are always at each other and it's sound bites, this is an opportunity through i.Detroit to listen more deeply, listen to your heart, find a way to connect to each other and create a better society.
Thank you, Marcus. And so if people are interested in getting the book that are watching right now, it's marcuslyon.com is a place to go, marcuslyon.com. I thought I should mention it there because it seemed like it made sense, Marcus. I have another question for Shirley, because where our country is right now, there's so much conversation about racial injustice and this need for equality, and it's on the minds of so many people, and also racial divisiveness right now. How do you think a book like this, with all of this diversity, as Ozzie described it, you know, it shows all the things you have in common with people of different ages, of different races and backgrounds. How do you see something like this helping to bring us together?
Well, you know, I have a saying, relationships first, issues second. I think many of the panelists have talked about that, and it's getting to know the folks. I think one of the pieces we really haven't talked about are these 100 people are putting their hearts and souls into the community in the work that they do. And now there's a book that you have. Hopefully you'll be able to get the book and you can scan the book and the person will tell you their story. But for me, Rhonda, I know so many people in the book, you know, been around a while, and I've heard their story, but not necessarily this story. And so each of us has more than one story. And so I just think a way to do it is to listen to those stories if you have an opportunity to, and pick out the you that's a part of that story. We all have similar stories. The whole piece of the DNA. Many of us, I know when I did my DNA, have a large percentage, not a large percentage, but 7%, you know, European and 10%, you know, something else. We don't really realize that. Focus on the pieces of the puzzle where you are similar. And I think we'll find we are much, much, much more similar than we are different. And the other thing is that the individuals in the book, this is a living document. We're going to have it on our coffee tables and other tables, and people will come by, and we, of course, too, will do like Ozzie, scan it and take a little bit of time. But focus on the fact that this is living. These people are alive. They're doing the work right now. What work's being done in the community? So I just challenge folks, those of us who are not a part, to go out and reach out and reach out to some of the 100 in the book to find out what it is that they're doing and maybe how we can help again in doing that work from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective. How can we help basically do something that maybe we haven't done before? And then the other part about it is the individuals, the 100 individuals in the books, I'm challenging you to continue to tell your story and tell your story outside of the book. Become ambassadors for this work that's being done. Become ambassadors for the diversity that's really represented in the book. I think that's the way it is. Don't just leave it on the table, but it is living. And let's each of us really help our stories really to be alive in the lives of all folks across Southeast Michigan, really, and others that we come in contact from other places.
Absolutely. Shirley, thank you. We actually got a message from one of the 100 i.Detroiters, Reverend Larry Simmons. So hello to him, because it sounds like he's a little pent up right now. He's like, when are we all going to come together and celebrate? Of course, this is what today was going to be, all of the i.Detroiters together in one place and a big event to launch this book. And it's unfortunate due to the pandemic that we can't do that today. But I think Reverend Larry Simmons probably echoes is what we all feel, is this is something so huge. And he says save some money in the budget so that we can have a show enough Detroit coming out party. So I think that anytime that we want to relaunch i.Detroit will be the perfect time for sure. I want Marcus, you to have a chance to kind of weigh in with some final thoughts as we get close to wrapping up this incredible day.
Thank you everyone for being part of this, and thank you to the audience for listening in to us. I think my final practical, transactional wish is that everybody gets a chance to see this. So today we have launched ahumanatlas.com. And that is a website with all the details of all the human atlases we've created to date, but also inside there's the i.Detroit project. So go in, there's all the sound, there's all the DNA, there are all the pictures, everything's there and accessible to anyone, anywhere across the world. So yes, if you want a book, we'd be delighted to ship you one. Check out marcuslyon.com and there's a link there to buy one. But much more importantly, look at the content on the website and feel inspired by these remarkable Detroiters. We've had the great pleasure to tell their stories. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Marcus. And I think I want to invite our panelists. Kenyatta woke up. I saw the way from Santa Monica. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts as we think about our DNA, our genealogy, and our family tree?
I just hope everyone's inspired by the stories in this book, even if you're not included, but you're watching as the audience, to take the time to find out your family history. It helps in your identity and it helps you understand more about your family story. And also you get to tell the stories that haven't been told about your ancestors, either while they're in Detroit or while they were in Detroit or prior to coming to Detroit. So I hope everyone takes this day and these stories to move forward and learn more about their family history.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kenyatta. I know I did a DNA. I found out, what part of Africa I'm from, that I'm 25% European and 2% Native American, and some things that we just didn't know. In fact, having a profile, I met a cousin that I never knew I had, that I had known here in the city of Detroit for all of my adult life. She's a friend of mine, and now we spend time together. So you even find relatives when you take the time to do that as well. Kenyatta, thank you. And here in the studio, Ken, any parting thoughts that you wanted to this project?
Well, I want to thank Marcus Lyon for calling me. We had a phone call, 4 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. That was because I get up early, not because Marcus gets up early. But I want to challenge school districts like the Detroit Public Schools Community District and other school districts throughout the region and throughout the country and the world to find a way to work with the team here, create a curriculum for elementary and middle and high school students. This should not, as we've all talked about, not just only be a coffee table book, although it's a beautiful one, the best one we've got in our home.
Absolutely.
But I want to challenge, as Shirley talked about, challenge the project to live, and it can live through generations of young people through school.
Absolutely. Ozzie, any final thoughts?
I want to echo the piece about oral history. A lot of my cultural work and those that I mentor, I talk about oral history and the power of that. And one thing I do want to say that the book did for me was that it inspired me, because I saw all these people doing that work, and it gave me a little extra boost. And I said, okay, I need to do some more.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining us today. It has been a true honor to be a part in just some small way to the culmination of this 3-year journey that is here. The book is ready. You can have it. You can order it. You can be a part of Detroit's history and learn about its people. So I want to thank Marcus Lyon for allowing me to host you today, and also to invite you to go to marcuslyon.com in order to purchase your own book, and also Human Atlas is a great resource, .com, a human outlet. ahumanatlas.com is a great location to go as well in order to about the book, the DNA mapping, the Human Atlas projects. There's one in Brazil and Germany, but I don't know, I'm kind of partial to i.Detroit. Thanks everybody for being with us, and have a great day. And please get the i.Detroit, a Human Atlas project.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. You didn't disappoint us. You just delivered. You really delivered, and you're my friend. Okay, thank you, Marcus.